Before the beginning, there was nothing. No earth, no heavens, no stars, no sky. Only the mist world, formless and shapeless. And the fire world, always burning. In Jotunheim, the home of the giants, is Mimir's well. Mimir, the wise one, the guardian of memory, knows many things. His well is wisdom. The ash tree grows between the 9 worlds and joins them each to each. The dragon Nidhogg lives in these waters, and it is always gnawing at the root from below. At the edge of the flame stood Sota. He will go forth from Muspel with his flaming sword and burn the world with fire, and one by one the gods will fall before him.
Embarrassing. Now I'm going to sneeze.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in live from wherever you are in the world. We are Dark Horse Comics, and I am joined today by a whole crew of folks that have worked on the Bill and Ted Are Doomed comics, which issue number 1 is out today in comic shops everywhere, or at least this week. I know things have been a little crazy with COVID in terms of shipping and distribution, so thanks for bearing with us, and we're doing the best we can to get these where they need to go as soon as possible. But Bill and Ted Are Doomed number 1 is out today, and hopefully available to you wherever you're at. So today I am joined by Evan Dorkin, who you might know. He's done comics for a while. Hey,
Yeah.
Evan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we've also got the artist on the series, Roger Langridge. Thank you for joining us, Roger.
Hello, happy to be here.
Roger is also in a very different time zone, so
yes.
thanks for putting up with us, and hopefully it's not too late for you there.
I'll manage, yeah. I'm not such a delicate flower. I'll be all right.
Excellent. I've also got some of my colleagues from Dark Horse. So we've got editor on the series, Daniel Shaban. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us again.
No problem.
Hi, Daniel.
And I've also got Brennan Thome, who is one of our designers.
Hi.
Hey, Brennan. So I'm excited to have this group on because, I mean, among other things, we don't always get to hear from the design side. So thanks, Brennan, for joining us to talk about that a little bit. And as some of you may know, but it is kind of a common question that we get, we don't actually work in the offices with Evan and Roger. They live where they live and work from their own location. So it's nice to be able to see everybody, especially during quarantine times, and get these virtual happenings, especially when we don't have in-person conventions. We're kind of trying to bring you these panel style discussions that you might normally see at a convention. Normally we'd be getting ready for New York Comic Con right about now. But at least now we can show you these from home. So just a quick couple of notes about the stream before we get into the discussion about the comics. Everybody who's in chat, please go ahead and ask questions if you have them about the Bill and Ted comics. We don't work directly on the movie, so we probably can't really talk about those, but we will talk about the comics. And if you have questions, again, in the chat, our moderators will be looking for those. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of chatter about Korra. No, that stream happened last week, guys. The video on demand will be available on our YouTube later this week. Right now, so Dark Horse offices are in the Portland, Oregon area, and we are surrounded by wildfires. And so we have had some outages. So things might be a little slower than usual, but we're for now getting back online. So we'll definitely announce when the Legend of Korra live reading from last week will be available on our YouTube. Should be in just a few days, so stay tuned for that. we're going to do a giveaway today. You can enter in the chat by entering the keyword station because it's Bill and Ted. So station, enter it once and only once. It will be counted. We'll draw a winner near the end of the stream. And you will win a copy of Bill and Ted Are Doomed #1, both regular and the variant cover. Regular cover by Evan and Sarah Dyer, and variant cover in this case by Roger himself. And so that'll be announced, and keep running in the chat and just stay tuned for the winner near the end. So without further ado, let us start talking about the Bill and Ted comics. Congrats on the launch today, everybody.
Yay.
Thanks very much. Yes.
Huzzah.
We've been talking about this comic series for a while, and of course the movie is now available on demand. So I guess that's the first imminent question. Has anybody had a chance to watch the movie on demand yet?
I've
No.
seen it.
I haven't seen it.
It's not out here. It's not streaming here, so we have to go to theaters to see it, and it's not been released in theaters yet. So yeah, I'm waiting.
I'm the only one that's seen it. It's good. So no spoilers, but
I read the screenplay, but
oh yeah, you got an early read of that.
I've only seen the second one right now. I mean, I'll have to get around to it. I will.
Yeah.
I think so. I looked up, how and where you can get it on demand here, and there are a few different options. You can also get like a bundle where you get all 3 movies at once. And so if you want to be able to watch all of them forever, it might be a better deal to go that way. So I might do that. Yeah. Theaters, that's going to be kind of challenging right now. Do you have
full hazmat suit, I think.
Yeah, here in the States, a lot of theaters are doing sort of like drive-in style. Do you have anything like that where people can
not in London, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That kind of place.
Not enough space.
Yeah, quite.
There's
I think they are actually having sort of some cinemas open with distancing and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know if I'm brave enough to do it quite yet.
This has nothing to do with Bill and Ted, but have you heard anything about the Halloween haunted houses in Japan that are drive-through?
What? No.
They're basically going to do them outside, and you're going to drive your car through a hayride kind of course, and scores of people dressed as zombies are going to attack your cars, and spread blood all over your car, and people are going to get killed in front of you as you drive through, and at the end you get your car washed. But I think it sounds absolutely terrifying.
That is full service.
But there you go. So these are the times we live in.
Is it really a car wash, or do they like bathe it in blood?
No, the zombies, yeah, they're going to get fake blood thrown all over. People are going to get killed on your car. They're going to do the wipe, they're going to do the classic zombie stuff. And then zombies will wash your car.
I'm just wondering who saw that niche in the market and thought that's what the world needs.
They may have seen the drive-through strip joints and thought, hey, zombies. Because, there's so many stores out of business now that like the Spirit Halloween shops have taken over half of the country. They got to do something with these costumes. They ordered them last year. So,
Fair enough.
That's a tip.
Yeah, we are getting close to the Halloween season, so.
Yeah. Scary times.
So this is a good question, and actually I would have asked it anyway, but so can you all tell us how these comics tie into the movie? They're kind of a prequel, which let us talk about how that all comes together.
They don't tie in at all, Kara. We actually, Mike asked us to have them tie into Star Wars and Predator and all the other Dark Horse licenses that they've lost in the last year and a half. No, they do tie it. It's a direct. Bill and Ted Are Doomed is a direct prequel to Face the Music, and it is a sequel to The Bogus Journey, which I did an adaptation of years ago for Marvel when it came out. And we try to sew the 2 movies together. And this is, I like to call Doomed a side adventure. It's like a side quest in Final Fantasy or D&D, where you don't have to do it to complete the story, obviously, but it's more fun if you buy our comic, all 4 of them. And then the trade. Thank you. But yeah, it's the character. We were able to do things that the movies didn't have time to cover, like what happened to the stations, what happened to the robots. and we were able to build on the rift between Death, the Grim Reaper, and the band, show the cracks in the family situation, the financial situation. Basically, Roger and I were able to cover some time where the things you learned in Face the Music, the band falling out of favor, the relationships between the princesses and our Bill and Ted becoming strained, seeing the kids, which turned out to be a lot of fun working with them as little, not like 10-year-olds, I can't remember exactly. But we filled in things that Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson put in the new script that, you know, we just use as connecting points. It's like we plugged in between Bogus and Face the Music.
And Evan, you actually got to meet with Ed Solomon too, right?
Yes, which was really cool. And we spoke on the phone a few times, and actually we've stayed in touch a little bit. We've exchanged emails, and that was really great. But I was really super nervous because I've done a lot of Roger and I have both done a lot of licensed work. You know, Roger's done Muppets. We've all done Marvel stuff. I've done Predator. I've done you know, I've done a lot of stuff in Nickelodeon and Disney Adventures and stuff. But I never met the people who created the characters I was working on. And other than dealing with the producers and writers on shows that Sarah, my wife, and I have worked on, like Yo Gabba Gabba, I've never kind of had to make my pitch to them as to why I should be allowed to watch their kids while they were out of the house. And it was just, I'm really nervous around people, and a lot, you know, it doesn't, you know, I get verklempt around certain people. It's not the celebrity aspect, it's just the social anxiety. So I ended up losing my wallet. I left my wallet on the table and ran away when he had another meeting, and I had to run back. It was just schmucky, you know, but he was really helpful. We had a discussion about intentions in the third movie. He had never read any of the comics that I had done. He said he had heard good things about them from Alex Winter, who plays Bill, obviously, who I went to school with and was in one class with at NYU. We didn't know each other. I held the door for him once, I think, is about the most of it. But it's pretty funny. It turned Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves both like comics to different degrees. And I guess Alex Winter has read the comics. But he went to bat for me. And that's another reason Ed was happy to work with me, which was really cool. But he hasn't read any of the comics for the reasons that a lot of people don't read work close to them or close to their properties. They don't want to be influenced or accidentally influenced. You know, it's like why you don't, Dark Horse, I'm sure, doesn't read unsolicited pitches and things like that for their characters or for their licenses, because you can end up with lawsuits from crazy people who say, I did a story about Superman punching somebody with his left hand, and then look, in Action 594, he punches somebody with his left hand. So that was interesting because he didn't know where I was coming from. But we ended up sending that first pitch, Daniel, that I did, which did not fly because it was close to the Marvel comics. So he helped me winnow in on the things that I needed to know about 3 and their thinking, so that I would have a better idea of how to get Face the Music together and stop thinking about a skeletal death and about some of the things that I was working in. So my original pitch, he actually asked me, he said, do you really like your pitch? Do you really want to do that? He was being very cool about it. He was trying to figure out a way to, but I think he was also telling me we really shouldn't do it.
Well, I think at that point too, you didn't have the screenplay.
I did not have the screenplay, but it was nice because he basically gave me the thumbs up and worked with me even without my pitch being accepted.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
So I'm just going to point out that we now have Roger demonstrating some of his drawing as well, which is really cool to get to watch. So he's doing some digital art right now. Roger, what system are you using? What are your tools right now?
I'm using a Cintiq tablet, which is it's a standalone thing. Cintiq Companion, it's called, and I'm using Clip Studio. The software I'm using is Clip Studio. If there are any cartoonists watching this, they'll know that it's probably the best software for drawing comics with. That and Photoshop seem to be the standards. I prefer Clip Studio because it's the tools are a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more natural feeling.
I've been seeing a lot of artists say that lately.
Boy, do I need one of those.
Maybe we can do a live edit as you're drawing.
Wow.
Oh, joy.
Okay, this is how Roger and I work together. Roger, could you put 800,000 more people in the background, please, Roger?
Drawing all the faces there too.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of working digitally is that I can do crowd scenes with just lots of little sort of colored dots as a digital sort of trick, a shortcut. Because there's quite a lot of crowd scenes. I didn't think when I took the job, and it should have occurred to me, that a lot of the action is set in front of live audiences. So obviously there's lots and lots of crowds, and the cast is quite big as well. So yeah, any shortcut is good. Anything that will shave a few minutes off.
Yeah, we wanted to. That's one of the things that Ed, in fact, he didn't. That's Ed turned out to be really cool. I mean, you never know. I have not dealt with a ton of Hollywood, in quotes, people, but there are people that, because of options on your work, or when we've worked on some animated series, you run into some people who are like living cliches of awful producers who make demands. And I was not, I didn't know anybody who knew Ed, but he was incredibly cool, incredibly forthcoming, and there were certain things that he was hoping that we would do in the series, which is like he wanted to see some of the domestic things going on. He wanted to see some of the things that happened in the household, the whole idea of them having to possibly that they were running out of money. And so we did include some stuff like that. But I was also, the only thing that I kind of told him was that I said he kind of wanted to play down the science fiction angle and the larger than life stuff because it's been done in the comic, in the films. But I was like, I convinced him, I guess, that we need some big visuals, and we need some stuff that's like the movies. If it was just a domestic 4-issue series of them trying to avoid getting real jobs and things like that, that visually it would just lack something that we would need, that we kind of just needed some kind of adventure or action. But I grounded it in a lot of music stuff, like the old Marvel series, because the band and the song became so important to the third film. But yeah, so we have a lot of crowd scenes because there's a lot of metal festivals and black metal cult murderer types in the latter end of the book. So the first issue sets up a lot of our things like that. It shows that Bill and Ted really don't pay attention to finances. I mean, there's a weird realism, non-realism to Bill and Ted. They talk about the Billboard charts and they talk about where they played in the Grand Canyon and this and that. But then they have things like, do they have a manager? Do they, how does anything work with these? Do they pay taxes? So I didn't want to go too far into that, because in the Marvel series, I did do an entire comic about them getting ripped off by their manager, hiring a manager because they realized they didn't know what they were doing. So I wanted to kind of thread the needle and still get that in without doing what I did in the Marvel comic. But yeah, Roger and I have known each other, and I love Roger's work, and he should know that there's going to be, unfortunately, a lot of crowds in my books and a lot of dialogue. But it looks fantastic. Honestly, I'm so excited to finally be working with Roger. It is honestly a goal that I've had for many years.
Likewise.
I mean, I used to sell Roger's,
feelings mutual.
Roger's first book, Art Deco. Am I right? Not Zoot. It was Art Deco.
That's the one. Art Deco was the first one, yeah.
And that was with your brother, right?
Yeah. That was 1990, so that's going back away.
I worked in a comic shop and we were selling that, and I just became enamored of his stuff. So I've always I bought a page off of him at Mocha. I think it was Mocha, one of those shows. So
that rings a bell.
Yeah. I have a great Frederick Town page. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's got like 14 panels on it, so that's why I don't feel too bad.
We definitely have some more questions coming in about art. Really quick though, I want to give everybody a chance. So Brennan, can you start by telling us a little bit more specifically what is your role on these comics?
So I'm the designer and I deal with putting the credits on the front cover. And then we're showing here the inside front cover, which I designed completely, which is all the Dark Horse credits, creator credits, legal stuff. And then later on, there will be a next issue page that you put the little on sale, whatever. But for the IFC, my whole theme was like, right, those are stickers, right? They're computer.
They could be stickers. We should do stickers.
Just like, kind of like sketchbook doodle, like school theme, kind of, 90s style. I know this takes place in the 2000s, but, just going off of what I know from the movies and just trying to fit in with like the really fun, like animated art style that Roger did. Yeah. That's IFC, inside front cover.
It's cool to see this kind of highlighted and to hear, like, we really do have people who work on all these little bits and pieces that come together for that final product. So wanted to give you folks at home a chance to kind of hear a bit more about how all of these different moving parts of the comics come together. So Dan also is the editor, and so you email at least pretty frequently, I imagine, with Evan and Roger to bring all this together. Can you tell us a little bit about your process working on these comics?
Yeah, these have been a breeze on my end just because Evan and Roger know exactly what they're doing. I think how this started was I knew that we were going to do Bill and Ted comics maybe about a year ago, and there was no creators assigned to it. And I always really enjoyed the Bill and Ted comics. When I was younger, I was picking up the Marvel single issues. And I even have the collection of those that Boom did that Evan signed for me. Which is, these were great comics. I loved them. And so when I saw that this series was up for an editor to work on, I asked if I could, and I really wanted to push putting Evan on it just because I loved his books. And so I pitched Evan to the licensors for this, and they liked his work. And then Evan wasn't available to draw this. So I had worked with Roger previously on an original graphic novel called Criminy. And it was great working with Roger. And I thought he would be really good for this. So I pitched Roger to Evan and to the licensors. And then we picked him up for this. And as Evan mentioned earlier, he met with Ed Solomon to come up with the story and then went to scripts. And it was a pretty smooth process overall. So
you can tell them I'm late all the time.
All the time. You want the truth? He's late.
I'm a very slow writer. I would like to have drawn it, but I've become smarter in my old age. And
you found a mug.
The original Bill, I know my limitations. The original Bill and Ted series I did when I was in my 20s, and I was bringing those. I didn't script them. I was making them up as I went along. It was an insane process because Marvel knew the book wasn't going to last. It was Fabian Nicieza who co-created Deadpool, and is now writing. He writes comics, and he's got a novel in the works that's coming out. But he was in marketing, and I met him when I was working in a comic store at San Diego when we had a retailers and Marvel people meeting, and I got drunk, and I apparently did some things that were considered funny at the time. And he knew that I did a book with these bands in them called, at the time it was called Pirate Core, and it became Hectic Planet. So I remember getting a phone call from him, and he said, you do that book with bands no one's ever heard of. Do you want to do Bill and Ted? And I'm like, it was my first full-time only monthly book that went past 4 issues. And back then I could swing it. Now it's hard for me to write one comic a month. I really stress my work. for good or for bad. But I mean, I like to put a complete story in there, and Roger puts a complete story on the page. So I think we did a really good job. Daniel was, you know, he answered questions, him and Chuck, when we need them. It's funny because this is going to sound crazy, but I wasn't sure if Roger was right for the book at first. I'm not saying that, but I mean, I like it, you know, I like to be honest about it. And I sat there and then I'm like, Daniel was really insistent, and I'm sitting there going, you know, I love his work, but is it right? And then schmuck, it's beautiful. You know, why did I even hesitate? So I'm glad that worked out, because it's, you know, you could ask Daniel, I get very scared about when we have to go for pick an artist for anything we work together on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get, once we have an artist, we have a book, and I get scared because then we have to do it and it's responsible and blah, blah, blah. But so, I mean, when we got Ben for Beasts, it was like I was sweating bullets after all those years not wanting to.
Ben Dewey is amazing. Yeah.
But
For those watching, Beasts of Burden is another one of Evan's comic series that Dark Horse publishes that he and Dan both work on. And yeah, Ben Dewey is the artist on that. Absolutely phenomenal. We also, since it is New Comic Book Day, we're obviously focusing on Bill and Ted today, especially since it's the debut of the new series. But also out today is another issue written by Evan of the Blackwood series. So check that out. Details are at darkhorse.com. You should be able to find it at comic shops this week too. And everything we're talking about today is available at not only comic shops, and we hope you shop local, but also digitally if you are not able to get to a local comic shop right now. So digital.darkhorse.com for digital stuff. We do have a question for Roger. Do you mostly work digitally, and is it harder than working by hand doing traditional art?
It's there are certain things that digital is better for, and there are certain things that traditional is better for. And at the moment, my current thinking is that when I'm doing my own personal work, I'd like to work traditionally, and for licensed work, I think digital's fine. Partly because it allows me to do things a little bit more quickly. So if it's something I'm less invested in, I'm committing less time to it. Partly because when you're working on licensed properties, they often ask for changes. And it's slightly easier to make changes when you're working digitally, which is one of the advantages of it. That said, I'm very attached to the physical process of drawing. I like to feel a little bit of texture under the pen, you know. So I try to do at least one thing that's traditional, even if I'm doing a project that is digital. So the variant cover I did for Bill and Ted, I did traditionally. So I've got at least one piece of actual physical artwork that's related to the project. So yeah, but yeah, a bit of each, mix and match.
Yeah, the work also, Dan mentioned Criminy. That's another comic that we have published. You can still find that at comic shops and bookstores, I think, but your work on that, it's sort of like 1930s style kind of Animaniacs. I really enjoyed that as well.
Thank you. Yes, we were basically trying to do a love letter to the sort of Max Fleischer cartoons of the 1930s.
We also publish Cuphead comics and art books right now, which I don't know if you are familiar with that video game or those books at all, but they also use that Max Fleischer 1930s art style. Really, really beautiful work.
I've seen the cover. I haven't seen the book, but I do want to check that out next time I'm near a comic shop.
Yeah, well,
I remember following the game when it was the game seemed to take forever to finally get to come out, because wasn't it 2D animation?
I think so. It was all done by hand.
It was it's really beautiful. It's totally old, early animation with everybody bouncing, a lot of rubber hose animation. I have a question for Roger.
Yeah.
How did you switch to digital? How did you learn it? I mean, I'm completely ignorant.
I set myself a challenge, basically. It was a New Year's resolution to master digital tools. So what I did, I just committed myself publicly to doing a daily strip digitally a couple of years ago. And having done that, I felt I couldn't back out of it. You know,
Is that the 4-panel strip that you do?
Well, this is like the one I'm doing at the moment is like a picking up where that left off. This is I did a different one a few years ago, which wasn't autobiographical. It was more just whatever popped into my head, and it was more about teaching myself the techniques really, and mastering the software, and coming up with some daft ideas at the same time, some of which have made it into my self-published comics. So yeah, it wasn't from that point of view. It wasn't just learning skills. I was also generating material. I was using it like a sketchbook.
Right.
But yeah, just a couple of hours every morning before I did whatever paying work I was working on at the time.
How long do you think it took you to feel comfortable?
Oh, about 6 months, I think.
Oh, I don't have 6 months, Roger. I'm dying. Oh my God.
Well, as we mentioned, Evan does some of the covers too, the main covers. Can you tell us who colors those for you? Because I want to make sure that she's included.
Yes, the colorist on the covers, and she does the production work as well. She puts together, like the second cover is a bunch of different elements. Is my wife, Sarah Dyer, who I've worked with on a lot of projects, including our kid. And she's written, I think, 2 or 3 of the Beast of Burden stories, and she created the character of Call of Cthulhu, which we co-created, and Dark Horse collected the Stela online series, hoping to do something more with her. But yeah, Sarah and I also co-wrote all our animation scripts for Space Ghost, Coast to Coast, Batman Beyond, Superman. We did a Ben 10 a few years ago, and we worked on Yo Gabba Gabba, writing cartoons, and then we ended up doing several episodes. And I do not understand anything that Roger is doing. It took me a long time to learn how to scan things and adjust them and make them ready so that Sarah can work on the files. And I'm having to learn very, very basic computer things for my Patreon, and just to be able to get some things to Daniel and Chuck and all the other assistant editors I've worked with, so that I don't have to yell downstairs to Sarah to come upstairs and help me. I'm very, very bad with computers, and so I would love to work digitally on certain things also, because my hand is killing me these days, and I'm hoping that might help a little bit. But yeah, Sarah takes all the raw elements I sent, like the cover for number 2 with the Grim Reaper as Bill and Ted inside his hood. It's, against his hood. And that doesn't exist as a full drawing. It's like 3 different drawings, and she assembles it and does whatever. I mean, Roger obviously knows what I'm talking about, and Brennan, I guess Brennan works digitally. I'm assuming, I'm like, what programs do designers use? Is it any different from Rogers or cartoonist programs?
I use InDesign personally, because I'm doing a lot of layout work. But if I'm clipping out spot art, I'll use Photoshop, sometimes Illustrator if there's any like vector heavy artwork. But yeah, mostly Creative Suite. Like at Dark Horse, we use the full Creative Suite for production work.
I know you're not an old person, but did you ever have to learn any like old, like hands-on techniques for design? Like, it's like Sarah used to have to cut rubylith. She worked at a newspaper. She had to, all the layouts for zines and things were done by hand. And we used to do our color as acetates with paint on the back, because we just did not have, there were no computer programs at the time.
I have not had to do that. I'm in my 30s, so I'm not like a total baby, but also I'm not a total old person. But
total old person.
Wow. In high school, I was on the newspaper staff, and we used like PageMaker, which is kind of old. But still, like in design school, we talked about like, literal typesetting, and and I've had my
hot type, cold type, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've done
what leading really means,
right.
where that comes from. Yeah,
I've done lots of zine work though, just like on my free time. So I'm very adept to Xerox machine for that type of thing. But
I still paste down the patches on my artwork with a glue stick.
yeah,
I'm terrible at that. I wait for Sarah to patch it down. I need to see it on the page. So I don't know how well, anyway, it's a whole different conversation. Let's talk about pinball. Let's talk about pinball some more.
Yeah. We were talking about pinball earlier. Is there a Bill and Ted pinball? Because there should be.
There really should be. I mean, most of the pinball machines being made these days are based on bands that seem that they've hit this niche where
Wild Stallions pinball.
that'd be fantastic.
Let's do that.
That actually really would be a good pinball machine. There's a lot of good sound bites and goals. You can go through the time. Wow, that's good. That's a good one.
Take notes, everyone. Let's see if we can do that. We do actually, Dark Horse is making some Bill and Ted products. So we do have like pins and other items like that. If you go to darkhorse.com and just search for Bill and Ted, you'll see those alongside all these comics. We do have some like Wild Stallions stuff. So that's fun.
Is there health insurance?
For
Is there like
Bill and Ted branded.
Wild Stallions health insurance? Because I would definitely send me comps of that. Please.
I feel like, that there's a close tie in there. Dark Horse, Wild Stallions. We should do more. We should continue to partner.
Sidestep in the benefits. Thanks, Karen. Thanks.
I
gotta go to the dentist.
I can phone a friend and see if somebody else from Dark Horse can talk about that because I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't know. I'm a freelancer. I don't know anything about health insurance.
Unfortunately, I don't really. Yeah, it's a wild, unknown world to me. So we do have another question from chat, which I don't want to ignore. Which character or characters were you most looking forward to drawing as an artist or getting to kind of play with as an artist? And I think that can go to both Roger and Evan, since Evan, you did work on the cover art. We were showing some of your process cover art there for.
Oh, okay. I can't see it, so I don't know.
Well, I'm really enjoying working on Death, the Grim Reaper. He's such a grumpy bastard, but he's great fun to draw. I think something about his high contrast face. He's got that kind of Fleischer aesthetic going on his black eyes and white face. And the stations have been fun. That I wasn't sure how to approach them at first, but I sort of experimented a little bit, and I found something that I think worked. They're a little bit more expressive than they are in the films, I think, by necessity. It's a sort of heavy makeup job or whatever it was in the film. But I mean, I hadn't seen the films before I was asked to do the job, so I wasn't really. I came in with no preconceptions. And I've just been trying to find my best version of the characters as I've worked on them and as the scripts have come in. It seems to be working all right. I think I'm getting away with it.
I think
my favorite thing that Roger's doing is I became more interested in working with Thea and Billy than was in the original pitch because I love the way he draws them as children, and I just found them as a great contrast to all the other characters, even more so than Joanne and Elizabeth, because Joanne and Elizabeth sort of are enabling a lot of this behavior, and Thea and Billy are observing. And I based them a little bit on our child, who's a teen, and that there's a lot of eye rolling at the same time as a lot of love for these crazy people that they grew up with. And while Billy and Thea in the third movie, from at least the script, seem to be very capable, intelligent, cool kids, even if they had this slacker thing going, they were raised right, and their adventurous side and their goofy side and their music is offset by the responsibility and the stability and the intelligence of their mothers. And without stressing it too much, my home life is a lot like that. But I found that the two of them, I would love to write, little Billy and Thea adventures, like these little Lulu,
we could do a
Nancy
Hank
Drew.
Ketchum kind of style or something.
Yeah, I mean,
or-
I just
yeah,
think
John Stanley.
I just think that John Stanley was who I was thinking about a lot when writing the two of them. And so they ended up, the problem was, like Roger said, that there were a lot of characters, and the Joanna, Elizabeth, and Death were originally supposed to leave the series in issue 3 because I felt there were too many characters and I wanted to concentrate on Bill and Ted, blah, blah, blah. But I just, Death is the real center of a lot of scenes. He's a terrific foil. He's a great straight man, but he's a straight man that's also funny because he loses his cool a lot. He gets angry. He's a fish out of water, but at the same time, he's also very egotistical and uptight. He's kind of like a old butler character in an old movie, who opens his mouth when he's not supposed to or whatever. He's also this all-powerful, ancient reaper who puts up with craziness and falls for pop culture. He collects toys, he plays in a band, he wants to play longer bass solos. I was really interested in drawing him on the covers because I've never drawn him before, even though I've done a Bill and Ted book based on Bogus Journey. We didn't have pre-production photos or a description of his character in the script for Bogus Journey when we were working on it. And I guess no one did because they made a toy line, and just like the comic, they made a skeleton Reaper. So I've always drawn him as a skeleton at commissions and at conventions since then. And he was my favorite character to work with in the Marvel series. He's not a grumpy bastard in the Marvel series. He actually mellows out quite a bit. He's kind of sad character who becomes more socialized. And on this one, I had to work with where he was going in Face the Music. So he stays really, really grumpy. And we sow the seeds for the band's lawsuits and rifts. If we were to do a comic after this, you'd see the band breaking up. And Bill and Ted Wildstones get sued. He tries to take the band's name over, and we didn't have room for that in this one. And the kids were great, and I wanted to give Joanna and Elizabeth a little bit more to do. I wanted to add a few other characters for them to interact with, and I would like to have drawn Denomalos, but it just wasn't happening. He was really fun to work with in the Marvel series. He's a real, characters who Bill and Ted kind of drive crazy, like in an old Marx Brothers movie where everybody seems to understand that everything's surreal and crazy, but there's this one character like Denomalos who just gets pissed every 5 minutes. So Death filled in for that. But I mean, I was just happy to draw Bill and Ted, I've really come to like working with the characters after years of kind of trying to, how do I put it? I never hated the characters, but I wasn't a fan when I took the first job. And working with them over the years and people talking to me about it, they kind of broke me down the way that they break down the characters in the movies who don't like them. And I just love them now, And I love Roger's take on them. I would definitely do, if Bill, I don't know if Dark Horse is retaining the license, but if they ever wanted to do another book, I'd be up for it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's not passive aggressive. I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, this was so much fun, and the characters are so rich, and there's so many of them. And there's, you're dealing with time travel. I mean, we had to cut time travel out of our book. Oops. In the third movie. I mean, that's kind of harsh. The first 2 movies do have time booths and time travel. Actually, the third one does too. There isn't a lot of it in the second movie, but Rufus does come back from the past.
Rufus.
I know. Well, we tried to. Have you read any of the comics?
I have read the first issue. I try not to spoil for myself.
All right, we have a nice moment for Rufus fans, hopefully, in the 4th issue that Roger and I put together.
Yeah, so, keep reading the comics, people, to see more.
Yeah, we wanted to. The fans really seem to love him, and I've done a lot of commissions of him over the years, so we definitely wanted to involve him, even though he's not in the 3rd movie. And we get a cameo of his kid in the 4th issue as well. Yeah, I mean, this is just, that was one thing, we could not work with the time booths because in the 3rd movie, it's established that they have not seen a time booth in like 20 years. That was a bummer. And Thea and Billy obviously have not seen a time booth ever also. So if we were to do more comics or anything, or in this story, we had to go in a different direction from time travel or the Dynamo story where they go to hell and heaven. So we ended up going part music, satire on tour, and part fantasy, horror, cult thing, because they have established in Bill and Ted that there is an afterlife and that there is the supernatural. People always talk about Bill and Ted as a science fiction series, but Bogus Journey really is metaphysical and fantasy. I mean, they go to heaven, they take dead souls out of Martians or aliens. I can't remember if the stations have canonically become Martians or not, and they go to hell. So, and Missy sends them to hell. They're ghosts in parts of. So I figured, why not go with the supernatural element if we can't do the time booths? So everything exists, and in the third movie, they also talk about other dimensions and all reality. So you can still go anywhere. Wow, that looks good, Roger.
Yeah, I love watching Roger work.
Yeah. Also, people might not to spoil anything, but the characters are not in their normal costumes in the pictures in the panels that Roger's working on. And that's because by issue 4, they're all incognito as black metal death cultists.
Ooh.
Thank you very much.
Keep reading the comics. For those, we do have a lot of folks who just joined. So if you're newer to the stream, we are celebrating the launch of Bill and Ted Are Doomed #1 in comic shops starting today. We do have a lot of other releases out, of course, but we're lucky to have comics creators on Bill and Ted, Evan Dorkin and Roger Langridge, with us today. So a celebration of all things Bill and Ted. On a similar subject to drawing characters, Dan and Brendan, do you have any favorite characters from the Bill and Ted series yourselves? Just favorites.
I always loved Death and the Stations. And then Bogus Journey, just when I was a kid, I really liked weird, dark movies kind of like that. And the hell scenes, like the rabbit in hell was kind of cool to me. And I mean, the special effects in Bogus Journey were really solid and still hold up really well. So that scene when Bill and Ted are in hell with the old lady and the rabbit and the drill instructor really just kind of was cool to me. So those characters are really neat.
I love the Stations and Ted.
Specifically.
It's really funny how everybody loves the Stations, and the Stations were this like weird throwaway oddball, like they didn't have a name for them and they were named Stations accidentally.
It's just when you see them like play air guitar, it makes it.
I mean, they're really kind of ugly as sin.
Oh, yeah, terrible looking.
Part of the charm.
But no, well, they have a permanent like weird burnt puppy. They look like puppies. Like
burnt puppy.
They do. They have this mutilated.
Have you seen
this mutilated chocolate face? Well, they look like they were rescue pups from like an arson job. I mean, they're awful, and they're really hard to draw because I mean, Roger might second me on this. They're just a collection of lumps.
Is it, Roger, I wondered if they were like maybe kind of easy for you to segue into having, since you worked on the Muppets?
They're a little bit Muppety, yes.
Yeah.
But they've got fewer distinguishing features. I mean, they don't wear clothes and they look identical to one another, so there's no way of differentiating between them either. So yeah, those were challenges. So much of their skin is like this blank canvas, so I've tried to give them a bit of a sort of a textured hide, I suppose, because it looks, in the film it looks like it's made out of sort of boiled leather or something. It's really kind of tough, nasty stuff.
They ran out of a lot of money on the second film, so some of the effects were really tossed together, and that's why Daniel mentioned the hell sequence with it was their fears. It was Granny Preston is the old lady, and Colonel Oates is the fear that Ted was going to go into boot camp, and then the Easter Bunny, which is his brother, who I think is in the third movie, Deacon. Those characters are actually, there's a long chase sequence that was mostly filmed. The creatures were designed for this, and it's cut from the second movie, but it's in the comic book adaptation. So we have a cameo of those characters.
Yes.
We have a scene in issue 3, I think it's 3, where the characters in the year 2700 are worrying about feedback they're getting from the past, and they are trying to build the device that's in the 3rd movie, the big turntable, and they're having a hard time of it because the data coming in from Bill and Ted's time keeps crashing it, literally. So for fans of the movies and the comics, we have this large opening panel where we got as many scenes in from the last few movies. And we showed scenes that were cut from the movies and things that could have happened to the characters. And we also have a nod to the Marvel series in there because people have asked, does this have anything to do with the Marvel series? And it's like, no, it's in full continuity with the movies and is not, the Marvel series is kind of, is not in there. I was going to have the cartoon Bill and Ted, but I forgot. I forgot to have draw the animated Bill and Ted in there. Maybe we could have had the amusement park Bill and Ted. They have that Bill and Ted show at the Warner Brothers studio place or something.
Oh yeah, like Universal Studios.
Yeah, nice cat. Hi.
Hey.
Station. But it's really funny because the stations are really, I asked him if the stations are in the movie, and Ed said no, and he goes, we just didn't have time. So we got to deal with the robots and the stations. The stations are so hard to draw. I think the only 2 stations I ever drew well was on the cover of this issue. I did not know how to draw them in the Marvel book, and I avoided it like crazy.
We're looking at some of your other covers now on the stream, Evan. I like the, what does this t-shirt say? Death to false metal.
Yeah, that's a big part of the
especially his catchphrase.
Yeah, it's his, but he believes everything is false metal. That's the villain of the piece. I have trouble remembering the names because we gave him stupid names because I'm not a huge fan of black metal or death metal or speed metal or whatever the metal.
All the metals.
But I listened to enough that I was able to, I listened to a couple of shows on FMU whose DJs play all kinds of metal. Non-hair metal, non-Bill and Ted metal, I guess, actually. And every time I tried to come up with a name for the evil band, I would Google it and I'd get so pissed because the stupidest names, like I would put in a fake name and I'm going, this is a great name for our villains. And it was Mithril Tomb. I thought I loved it. Mithril Tomb, that sounds so high school. And there's a band called Mithril Tomb. And this happened like 4 times in a row. So finally, Vile Empire is, it's not my favorite, but it was the only one that we wouldn't get sued over. So they all have there's a lot of bands in there. There's a band that's Merciless Fate, which if you like King Diamond, you'll get that joke. And we couldn't use real band names, so we have Necronoma Clown, a band that can't be named because their name is so horrible it will cause some, I wanted to have a baby metal band in there, but I just didn't have enough space.
I think Necronoma Clown should be our next comic.
Sure, that'll work.
I feel like we have a lot of great comic ideas coming up in here, so I'm sure Dan is taking notes.
I like Necronoma Clown, but I think they end up in hell, which is where clowns should be in hell. But I love those guys. The guys from, we didn't have a ton of time. The guys from the band that can't be named are lightly based on Ghost. I put that in there because I know Ben Dewey loves Ghost. And the old comics, I always was able to put real band names in, and I actually drew real bands in. It didn't make sense to the Bill and Ted continuity, really, because I don't think Bill and Ted would have had Fishbone, the Chili Peppers, and the Residents playing at their wedding. But that I would put all the bands I liked on T-shirts, and I would put them on posters and things like that, and I'd have them make jokes. We weren't allowed to actually name bands even in dialogue, which was a bummer because I like to place Bill and Ted in real. That should be really in the continuity. They've had Dave Grohl in the movies. They had the guy from Faith No More. They talk about bands. So that bummed me out. I had all these jokes ready to use, about real songs. So I had to change them all. The Iron Maiden joke can't mention Iron Maiden, that kind of thing. And a big part of the Marvel book and a part of the movies is to tie it into real bands and real lyrics. So we lost that, but if you're a fan of certain bands, you will find you will get the King Diamond jokes, the Danzig knockoff, the making fun of Norwegian death metal bands living with their parents, shit like that. Stuff like that. Sorry.
More reasons that you need to check out these comics and things you didn't know. All of the little things that we constantly have to deal with, like getting approvals to use band names or not. Yeah. So we are just at about 2:00 our time, Pacific time. I'm going to do a last call for any questions for the creators and the Dark Horse. Remember, we've got Brennan, who's a designer. You don't get to talk to those very often. I mean, Brennan is welcome to come back on stream anytime, of course. And Daniel, the editor on the series, who also edits all of Evan's other work. We do Milk and Cheese, for one.
We need more milk and cheese.
Yeah, I know. Well, we may, who knows? Maybe we'll see Milk and Cheese next year on something, right, Daniel?
I'm ready to start pitching that now for you.
I can't do 20 pages. If Roger draws it, then we'll do it.
I'm game.
Actually, a Milk and Cheese like 1930s style strip would be really good. I've been drawing them with little pie eyes lately.
Interesting.
I don't have them anywhere. The thing is, they don't have stories. It's really hard to put that together. You know? Do I have?
We're
anything?
also, I mean, we can't probably talk about this too much because, as with things like Avatar and Korra, we can't we can't announce an announcement. I can't really tease an announcement. You know, we can't talk about it until we can talk about it. But people are asking about Blackwood and Beasts of Burden. There is a new Blackwood issue out this week because delays due to COVID made that happen. So the trade will come out soon. Anything
the trade
else?
Is coming out pretty soon. The trade will be out real soon, and we'll have two volumes out, which is really cool. I kind of know where the third one is going. I just don't know. The problem is, it's not even spoilery. The problem is the pandemic and the horrible times we're living through right now. Not to make light of them, but you know, we could dwell on that and start crying. But our industry froze for a few months.
Yeah.
I got to say, Roger and I are fortunate to have gotten the Bill and Ted gig because I had very little work, to be honest, while things were going on. So
same here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's next for anything right now in the comics I write and draw. There is no third Blackwood series approved or planned. But Veronica, Andy, and I have mapped out a lot of things with the characters, and I mean that's a book that's open-ended. We have an ending planned for it, just like Beasts. But we don't know what's going on with the next chapter because financial situations, production schedules, the reality of selling comic books in this period right now. I just don't know what's going on. Nope. A lot of people don't know what's going on.
Yeah. We're starting to get back on track, but yeah, it may be a little bit before we have lots of news. But we will definitely announce.
I don't mind talking about Beast because it's an open secret that there's a Beast series with Ben Dewey. There's been we haven't gone deep into it, but we do have another Wise Dogs series, and it's practically finished, and it should be out next year, and it looks amazing.
Stay tuned. Yeah, I love all of these series. I think Brennan does too, because I see you nodding along, and I think we've talked about Blackwood in particular. And we know Ben, who works on Beasts of Burden, of course. So very, very, very excited to talk about that more as soon as we can.
Yeah, that was written with Sarah. It takes place in Japan in 1947 or 46. It gives you a lot of background on Emrys the sheepdog. It has one of my new favorite dogs ever. And two dogs that Daniel and we have always wanted to have a Shiba Daniel always used to joke about putting Zell, his dog, into one of the comics. And my family loves Shibas. And our daughter was totally pro Shiba for Beasts of Burden. We just couldn't figure it, we didn't. And I had a short story, and we ended up working it out into a 4-issue series, and I'm really pleased with it.
I had plenty of Shiba Inu reference for you too. So
yes.
Yeah, we have. I mean, Daniel, where is Zell?
She's asleep on the floor. Hold on.
Comics Talk will put you to sleep.
Yeah.
There's Zell. We've got.
He loves Zell.
We'll basically learn what the Japanese version of the wise dogs are. And I'd like to put a shout out to Zach Davison, who has done a lot of work with Dark Horse.
Yes. Hey, Zach.
Zach has been helping me. I got to get some drawings done for him again because the post office ditched them. Thank you. Zach has been helping me on the cultural and yokai stuff. Double checking name. You know, I did not want to do any. We did not want to step on anyone's toes culturally and with the yokai information. I know that stuff really well, but I'm no expert. And he's been a tremendous help to make sure that we don't come off as ugly tourists. But it's a fun book, and it also takes place right after the last Wise Dog series, so you'll see some of those animals as well and what's happened. I cannot wait for this one to come out. There are some pages in there that Ben has just knocked out of the park, and if you like yokai, you'll really like this series.
I didn't know that you were working directly with Zach on that, but that's cool. I definitely know Zach. Yeah. I game with him every week now, so small world. Really? Yeah.
D&D,
we have
D&D or Call of Cthulhu or what?
Well, we started with Call of Cthulhu, but it's like a rotating thing where we rotate after a few, like we kind of do short campaigns and then we switch to a different game. So
a lot of Boot Hill and Gamma World.
So far we have done
some old fart with dice is laughing right now. Trust me.
I got
at those Traveler.
I had to buy Star Wars dice for our latest game, so there's that. That's
what happens if you roll plot hole.
I'm still figuring these dice out because it's an entirely custom dice. So
I've got my dice, my Call of Cthulhu dice out. I played online for the first time with some guys who do online podcasts and stuff, and it's a lot of fun, and I died and I went mad and I loved it.
Brennan, I'm going to bring quickly, I'm going to add this question from the chat because I like how specific it is. And I see that you see it, but how much of your design is based on maybe some inspiration from your own childhood stationery or things from the 90s?
It is. I'm an avid sticker collector. I was one of those people who would not put their stickers on anything though, because that was too much of a commitment. And
I just gave the thumbs up too, Car.
Yeah.
Now I still have a box of stickers that have not gone anywhere. But if I really like a sticker, I'll try to get 2 of them so I can put one on something. Like,
oh my gosh, do you want to trade stickers sometime?
I do. Let's do that.
Sarah has a stack of 90s Sparkly Kitty sticker.
Oh,
we bought
the necklace.
The cat that's winking and is all sparkly. She's got like 75 of those. We bought them every time we found them, and she was doing Action Girl as a zine, so she was trading. I have all my FMUs. I love stickers, but I have band stickers and I can't put them on anything because I just get scared. I love stickers. I want to do stickers so bad. Oh my God.
We'll see if we can do, like I said, we have some Bill and Ted product. I don't know that we have stickers, but I can inquire. There's definitely pins and I think keychains, and we're definitely dropping links in the chat so you can see them on our website.
Something real quick. Ben, we mentioned Ben Dewey and Veronica Fish. They both did variant covers for Bill and Ted.
Yeah, those will be coming up. Which issue, Dan?
Oof, off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Go.
Veronica's variant is number 3, and then Ben's variant's number 4.
And number 2 is Tyler Crook.
Yeah. So 2 and 3 are solicited, which means they're in the catalog for comic shops and so forth. And so they're also on our website. And then issue 4 should be coming up pretty soon. So we'll have that art up probably like another month or so. Brennan, you also work on the previous catalog, right?
I do that. So I
know good times.
Everything that goes in there.
So soon you'll see it, then we'll see it. Previews, like I said, that's the catalog that all the comics retailers get. They still use a paper catalog, which blew my mind when I first learned of that. Comics, man. But they have digital kind of as well. Whoa, my computer just did a little freak out over here. So we are coming up on, we're actually past 2 now. So I'm going to draw a winner in our giveaway, and that's going to be announced in the chat. Congratulations to Gavlees, Gavlees.
I wanted it.
Hey, well, you get comps. It's fine. You're a winner too, Evan. We've
Oh,
drawn you as a winner.
I'm a winner. Yeah. I'm in comics.
So they win both copies, one copy of the regular cover and one copy of the variant cover of Bill and Ted Are Doomed issue #1, which is out today in comic shops. Go pick it up at your comic shop this week if you can, or it's on digital too if you prefer digital or can't get to a comic shop right now. I'm gonna kind of wrap this up because I know that we all kind of have to get on to other things today, but
I don't. I can stay here all day.
I wish I could.
My car's in the garage.
Horror movies.
My car's in the garage, and I have to get a dentist worked out because of this tooth abscess. That's why I'm not shaved. Thank you.
Ooh.
And I would rather sit here and talk about Bill and Ted than go back to my horrible life. What panel is that? Hey, what's going on there, Roger?
This is
Oh, okay. Cool.
yeah, I think have we seen the cover of #4 yet?
No.
Okay,
No.
so I won't talk too much about what's going on, but yeah, they're getting attacked by something.
Yeah. Everything goes badly
Yeah.
because the villains are inept too, just like the Nomalos. Cool.
Well, thank you again to everyone. Thank you, Roger, for demonstrating art while we're chatting. It's always really cool to get to see that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're in, as I said, a very different time zone too. So out of respect to not keep Roger up until like 2 a.m. his time, we will wrap up. But thank you everybody for joining us today in the chat too and asking questions and so forth. Another question we were just getting, and yes, I will bring this up. Thank you for asking. We stream every week on Wednesdays. Sometimes we have special guests like today, and then we feature them and their books. So in this case, it's Roger and Evan, and also Brennan and Daniel, who work with me at Dark Horse, and they all work on the Bill and Ted Are Doomed comics, which begin this week. So next week, we'll be back to our new comic book day rundown where we talk about all the new announcements and kind of go through all of the comics and books that are out that week. And stay tuned. We will announce whenever we have more guests coming up, we'll announce on stream as well as on our social media. So those kinds of announcements you can expect here. But next week, we'll be back to regular new comic book day streaming. We are in Pacific time here, which we're in daylight time, which means we're Greenwich Mean Time -7 for those who need a world clock. I'm not going to break down all the time zones, but every Wednesday, tune in and we are here, and you'll see that when we go live, you'll get an alert. And afterwards, the VOD will be available here on Twitch and also on YouTube. So we'll announce when this VOD is available on YouTube as well. So stay tuned. Dark Horse Comics on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And thanks again, everybody. We can sign off the live stream, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day, whatever time it is.
You have to say be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to one another, everyone.
Don't make it all illiterate.
It's actually, do you want to know? It's in our chat rules. Our chat rules are basically be excellent to each other.
Excellent.
All the time.
True. It is a good, it would be nice.
It's a good guideline.
Nobody follows it.
Please try to be excellent to each other.
In a movie. That's fun.
All right.
Who are you?
I'm Harry Vanderspiegel. I'm a doctor. You don't have anything to worry about. I'm not an alien.
All right, look, that's one creepy son of a bitch, right?
It's okay for people to be a little bit different sometimes.
This is some bullshit.